you only need pencils and paper. What we're going to do today is draw a flower. So we're going to do the centre. Nothing has to be perfect. Don't worry that it's not a circle, an absolute circle. And then we're going to draw some petals. We're going to draw 5 petals on the circle. And to do that, I'm going to make it a little bit like a propeller to start with, just to space them out reasonably easily. They don't have to be the same size. No flower is perfect. This can be done with any shape. You can use a number, a letter, just a shape. Well, you can see that my 5 petal flower is a little wonky, but we'll go with it. Okay, so let's try filling the centre first. We're going to do a little swirl over to one side and make it meet the original stem of the swirl. We're then going to give a shadow outline around it. We're going to repeat that 3 times just to fill this circle. So we're going to take another one over here and again outline it. As I've said before, nothing has to be perfect here. What we do try to strive for is to get the lines actually meeting each other, so there's no little gaps in between. But it's no biggie. You're the one enjoying this, hopefully giving you a nice little moment of you time. So we're now going to colour it in between the lines. You don't have to use pencils. If you've got felt pens, you can do that. You can draw it in pencil first if you prefer, and then colour in with coloured pencils, anything you like. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this video could be extremely long otherwise. As it is, I shall probably have to speed it up later. You don't have to use the patterns that I'm doing. You can fill these spaces with anything you like. But for me, this is what I'm trying to achieve today. So I'm going to just fill in that space there as well. And maybe give another circle in the middle of these. Whatever you want to do. Okay, so one of the patterns that is quite interesting to look at, but you're not too sure how it's done. So all you're doing is a set of dots reasonably equidistant to each other throughout the petal. So what I'm going to do now is, if you can imagine an S, a backward S on its side, I'm just going to join the dots, and so that will be just like that. And then we join the dots the other way. So these will be S's. Okay, so you can see it looks like a chain link fence in some respects, and we'll come back to that and do a bit of shading later. So we can do a nice little display of flowers. You'll just take your wobbly stem up, there's your inside of the flower, and there's your petals around. Nothing spectacular to do, as many petals as you like. Wind them around, fill that space. Make it as busy or as light on flowers as you like. If you want, you can add a few leaves as well. So you can add a little leaf here. Okay, and what you might want to do is, rather than draw a little vein on it, just fill in the leaf completely. Fill in the centres of the flowers. And add a few dots around them. Okay, so very simple one. If you take the petal around and whichever way you may be left-handed, whichever way suits you, I'm just going to draw curves like this, joining the side by curving over. Now this can be shaded, this can just be pure black and white, you can add a little bit more to it. What we can do is give it a dark point and just shade in very lightly, so you start hard and then just gently pull that in. What we can do for these gaps here is we can fill them in with lines or circles. Let's try some lines. So I'm going to mimic the shape of the centre of the flower just by adding some lines like this. And these are quite thick lines because my pencil has worn down a little bit with the actual shading. And again, you can change that and colour it in a little bit more or give it a little bit of shade, whatever you like. What we can do now is some shells. I call them shells. Beginning to look a little bit like a bud, isn't it? Maybe we can change the pattern here and do something a little different. Maybe some wavy lines going up. Okay, so at this point we can just do a simple alternate line of colour. Let's draw some little lines up here and dots on this one. Circles on this one. And zigzags. Let's do it so that they come out from here, so some straight lines. Okay, for this one we're going to do rows of little squares, and we're going to try and make it into a basket weave. So let's start squares and rectangles. Just try and keep whatever you draw in a row, they don't have to be the same length or width on each row. Okay, so next one, let's make it a little square, but carrying down in that row. So it's going to be a thinner one. Okay. Okay, so now you've got your rows of squares, we need to make it look like a weave work. So let's say that this one is going across here. Let's fill that bit in at the top. So if that's going across, this is going down. And that's going across. So one's going under, one's going over. Tidy these things up, and then what you can do with these is, let's see, more dots I think. Just put some little dashes in the other ones. So then we've got the chain link. Now, as it is, it's quite bland, but if we just add a little bit of shading underneath the top line and on the left one, what we can do is add a stem for the flower where I left that wonderful gap. Just simply swirl all the way down the stem. A little bit of shading, not much. And there we have it. Thank you for watching.